UFC 310 is in the books, and I thought that was a very entertaining card, top to bottom. The main card, we had a lot of decisions. The main event came through a very, very exciting fight. Flyweight often gets a lot of negative talk. The guys are lighter, they're littler guys in general, but the flyweight division is on fire. Tonight in the main event, there was another case of that with a beautiful performance by Pantoja, and there were some dangerous moments there. But like I said, the fight was very, very entertaining. Great fight between two undefeated prospects, the one we were all looking forward to, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Garry, and Shavkat Rakhmonov stays undefeated. I thought the fight maybe was a little bit underwhelming in terms of action. There was a perception and excitement coming in based off Shavkat's previous performances, and I think you could see the amount of respect they both had in there for each other. I think the previous training really, really impacted the fight. I wonder if Shavkat Rakhmonov hadn't have trained with Ian Garry before, if he had have, gone in with such a calculated approach like he did. But Ian Garry's takedown defense, his grappling defense looked amazing in that matchup. And it was really, really surprising that Shavkat wasn't able to get it to the ground at all. Like I said, really, really entertaining card. The Battle of the Flat Earthers, Kron Gracie, Bryce Mitchell, hilarious fight. Kron Gracie his career in the UFC has been so strange. And for him to get a ranked opponent in a matchup on the main card again was, a really weird call. So like I said, the card was very entertaining from top to bottom. Let's jump straight into that main event. Alexandre Pantoja defends his belt again. He's racking up title defenses now. The guy's record against the top 10 of flyweight is absolutely nuts. Like, no wonder Kai Asakura comes in. We need new fresh blood. Pantoja's beat everyone pretty much. I'd like to see the Kai Kara France fight. That's an interesting one. Brandon Royval, he's beat twice already. Come on, guys. I know Brandon Royval is the next deserving contender, but does anyone really have any excitement for that matchup again? Pantoja's just looking so on top of his game, and I know Royval's improved, yes, but styles make fights, and Pantoja's fundamental grappling skills, I don't know if Royval can overcome that. I don't know if that's something, with momentum or stringing together a few good wins that he's going to be able to overcome, because Pantoja is an absolute dog. And like I said, how technical he is on the ground. The back take he hit tonight before he got the sub was spectacular. He's one of the best back takers in all of MMA. His grappling is severely underrated. Does not get enough love. And just the fighter in general. I made a video earlier this week breaking down just the disrespect on Pantoja's name. Kai Asakura never fought in the UFC before and was getting talked about, he was going to come in and steamroll Pantoja. I heard people picking this guy to win by KO. Yes, he's a dangerous striker, but don't you think the UFC's top 10, flyweights in the world have some dangerous strikers as well? Pantoja's seen it all, and he proves again tonight that he is just levels above the rest of the competition. That is nothing against Kai Asakura. I'd love to see him, stick around. I think there's some really, really exciting fights for him in this division, but Pantoja, like I said, is just a step above. There's levels to this game, and Pantoja, you can see he's just put it all together now. So Pantoja in those lighter weight classes, one of my favorite guys to watch, and his story, how humble he is. It's hard not to love the guy. So hats off to you, my friend. Great performance, and I'm looking forward to see what you do next. That co-main event, like I said, everyone was so hyped coming in. This was the fight that everyone was looking forward to. This was the people's main event, 100%. I think it delivered, in a chess match, a technical chess match sort of way. Shavkat Rakhmonov, like I said earlier, his style, just his marauding style, that 18-0 coming in, all finishes. There was how that was going to clash with Ian Garry's style was, really, really interesting coming in. I thought there was going to be a lot more volume on Shavkat's side, but he fought a really, really smart fight. And Ian Garry, I thought, really, really impressed a lot of people tonight. He showed that he's elite in this division, 100%. although he didn't have the most, offensive moments, he came really, really close to the sub in the 5th round. But on the feet, he was sort of stifled a little bit, landed really, really nice shots to the leg, doing a great job of immobilizing that lead leg of Shavkat Rakhmonov. And he had some success up there on the feet, don't get me wrong, but he was playing defense and catch up for a lot of the fight. And although his defense defensively on the grappling side was incredible, didn't even give up a takedown the whole fight. The control time from Shavkat, he's smart. For a guy who has never fought 5 rounds before, neither of these guys have. For Shavkat Rakhmonov to be patient, smart, and bank those minutes and rounds, even when the game plan wasn't working necessarily, of getting it to the ground, high level stuff. And I'm sure, like me, all of you guys are on the edge of your seat watching that one, because the volume necessarily wasn't there. These guys weren't trading shots like we necessarily expected, but you could tell that anything that landed significantly was going to hurt. And just the stakes of the matchup was crazy. 2 undefeated guys coming in. Garry on short notice. Shavkat, he had a title shot lined up already. And everyone wanted this matchup. This is why we love the UFC, MMA. 2 killers, prime of their career. And they accepted the fight and put on a really, really great show. I know for a fact that this is not the last time these guys are going to see each other. Thought both guys put in a really, really great account of themselves. No one loses stock in the performance like this, especially Garry, coming in short notice. I think if anything, he might turn the public perception around in his favor a little bit. So great fight and a great performance by both guys. Shavkat, he'll move into that title shot with a lot of steam now, but I'm sure the odds in that fight with Bilal are going to be a lot closer now, because over 5 rounds, Shavkat was getting a little bit tired. I wonder if he can survive in there for 5 rounds against Bilal. Not survive necessarily, but Bilal Muhammad is known for putting a really, really high pace on guys and great wrestling. So I'm super, super intrigued to see that fight next. Ciryl Gane gets an absolute gift. I thought that was a clear 2 rounds to 1 in the Volkov on the first rewatch. On the first watch, I've got to go back and rewatch to see exactly what went down in those 15 minutes. But going to the cards, I was super surprised when I heard Ciryl Gane's name being read. And just talk about the fight, like Volkov really, really impressed me. Ciryl Gane looked a little bit off. He talked about breaking his toes in the first teep, which would be awful to fight with. But regardless, after all of the wrestling in the first round, he looked tired. He's not used to doing that. He's used to bouncing around on the outside. And Volkov, I think he was really, really tough to not get the nod, because since their first fight, he improved heaps and, did really, really well in the rematch. A fight that I didn't think would be competitive. I thought Ciryl Gane would beat him even clearer this time, but how wrong was I? Even though Ciryl Gane gets the win officially, Volkov impressed me so much. I think he had a great performance, and like I said, it's a really, really tough decision. And to lose half of your money over something like that, it's pretty brutal, man. So Volkov, I feel your pain, but regardless, that was a beautiful performance. So hold your head high on that. Bryce Mitchell slams Kron Gracie. That knockout was brutal. He was out from the slam, and then 2 elbows. Wow. 2 of the most brutal elbows I've ever seen. That second one was criminal. Kron Gracie was out, and Mitchell just put his head through the canvas. It is so good to see Bryce Mitchell get a win. After what happened in his last fight against Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell, one of my favorite fighters, just based on his personality. Like, the guy is one of the most lovable dudes in the UFC. You heard him on the mic with Joe Rogan. How could you not love Bryce Mitchell and everything he brings to the table? You may not agree with everything that he says, but his authentic nature and his authentic personality is, he's one of a kind, and I'm here for it all day. Bryce Mitchell, that was a beautiful performance. Kron Gracie, like I said, what is he doing in the top 15? What is he doing in the UFC? Like, I know he trains with the Diaz bros and Gracie is his last name, but that it? Because his last three performances have been absolute stinkers. He just hasn't shown up to fight whatsoever. So yeah, really interesting matchmaking, but nonetheless, like I said, Bryce Mitchell getting a win is great to see. Korean Superboy was on from the first bell. He was piecing up Landwehr. The fight was not close. He showed up and showed out. And it is just such a shame that he had to go away for 4 years to go do his mandatory military service. Like, it just puts such a halt in his career. Nonetheless, let's be grateful for what we have, because that was, in my opinion, the cleanest performance that Doo Ho Choi has put on in the UFC. This one was heartwarming. Vicente Luque coming back, someone who I thought personally was washed, was completely done. He had the chin cracked, and after that happens, it's all downhill, but had a big step down in competition here. And although he was the underdog going in, none of that mattered. Caught Themba Gorimbo with a beautiful right hand on the way in, hurts him bad, drops him, and he jumped on that anaconda so quick. It's that the Das, that's his signature move on the ground. He's so clean with those submissions, and Themba Gorimbo went to sleep quickly. That was a beautiful vintage performance by Vicente Luque, in and out, no damage taken. Another really heartwarming win. Like, to see him win again after so long is, really, really good. Like Dominic Reyes, even though he beat Anthony Smith, someone who, yes, very over the hill and was dealing with a lot of personal issues coming into this fight. Dominic Reyes, someone in such a brutal sport who has, had a really, really rough go of it. To see him start to put a win streak together again was, really, really nice to see too. This card had a lot of that. A lot of heartwarming wins. Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling. Aljo, for how undersized he was, the grappling was beautiful. Like, the grappling match those two had, all of the transitions, the scrambles, like I talked about at length coming in, that was a silly mistake to have that fight on the prelims. And I think, the fight delivered. It was a really, really intriguing fight. If you know what you're looking at, if you really appreciate MMA for everything that it is, you would have loved to watch that fight, because, like I said, the grappling transitions, the scrambles, those weird little intricate positions, the give and the take of the momentum in the fight, everything those two warriors gave in terms of, will, just to do that for 15 minutes, incredible. And Movsar Evloev moves to 19-0. Like, let's get this guy into a title shot. Yes, he doesn't get finishes in the UFC, but how many do you have to win? Is that 9, 10 in a row now? It's nuts. It's nuts. And I think, like I said, he may not be the most exciting fighter, but he's an absolute problem for the division, skill-wise. And I'd love to see him over 25 minutes. That's the next test for him. Get him into a main event, because, if he can employ that style over 25 minutes, who is beating that guy? Unless your name's Ilia Topuria, show me someone who can beat that guy. So yeah, like I said, all of the card, super entertaining. The prelims were stacked in their own right. Chris Weidman, really disappointing loss there. Michael Chiesa, one of those heartwarming wins I was talking about, gets a beautiful submission. And for an old bloke, he reminds everyone that he's here to stay for a little bit. And yeah, he's another guy that, it's just good to see him win after everything that he's been through, ups and downs in the UFC. Chase Hooper, this kid is so special. I've watched him grow up in the UFC, and his grappling game is so slick. And not only slick, but fun to watch. The damage that he creates, the positions, just keeps the fight moving. He's so much submission over position. And although, it's not the highest fight IQ, it just creates for such entertaining, fights, scrambling positions, grappling exchanges. And the kid is slick. Gets a beautiful submission tonight. Another guy who I just always love to watch, because he brings a really authentic, unique ability to the octagon, that no one else really does. Let me know what you guys thought of this card. I thought 310 over-delivered, really, really entertaining. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, I would really, really appreciate it. And we will chat soon.